Linda Johnson, could you please give the invocation?
Please bow your heads. Dear Heavenly Father, we praise you and we thank you for your presence here. We thank you for your love and for your mercy and your grace and for your mercies because they are new every morning. Proverbs 21:2, the king's heart is in the hand of the Lord. Like rivers of water, he turns it wherever he wishes. Father, I thank you that you hold the hearts of each one of these seated here in your hand, and you will turn them the way you would have them to go this night. Father, every way of a man is right in his own eyes, but God thoroughly examines our motives. Father, I thank you that our motives are right in you. We ask you that every motive tonight would be right in you, in the good of the people, the good of the city, the good of everyone. It pleases God more than we demonstrate godliness and justice than we merely offer him a sacrifice. So, Father, we demonstrate, we declare that the godliness and justice will be demonstrated tonight. Arrogance, superiority, and pride are the fruits of wickedness and true definition of sin. So, Father, we cast out all arrogance, superiority, and any pride from this place tonight, and we ask for your humbleness and peace here. Brilliant ideas pay off and bring you prosperity, but making hasty and impatient decisions will only lead to financial loss. So, Father, we thank you that no hasty decisions will be made here tonight, Father, that we will think about them and time will be taken according to what is needed, according to your plans and your purpose. Father, and I just declare that you are awesome in this place, mighty God. You are awesome in this place, Abba Father. You are worthy of all praise. To you our lives we raise. You are awesome in this place, mighty God. Thank you, Lord. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you, Linda. So now that it's 6 o'clock, we'll officially call this meeting to order. Madam Clerk, could you please take the roll?
Mayor Miller,
Here.
Alderpersons Clem,
Here.
McClanathan,
Here.
Ross,
Here.
Parker,
Here.
Busker,
Here.
Brashaw,
Here.
Keister,
Here.
and Berberay.
Here.
If you could please stand and join us with the Pledge of Allegiance led by Alderman Keister.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, Council, item number 13, we will be removing for this evening and putting it on at a later date. Moorings and Gills would like to rework their proposal. So can we have an approval of the agenda minus item number 13?
So move.
Second.
We have a motion made by Alderman Keister, seconded by Alderman Ross. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion passes. Item number 2 is approval of the minutes from the council meeting on May 6th, 2019. Is there a motion for that approval?
So move.
Second.
We have a motion made by Alderman Keister, seconded by Alderman Brashaw. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion passes. Next is public comments.
Mayor, with regards to public comment, I see that there are a number of names that have signed up there. So pursuant to our City of Freeport rules, that with regards to public comment, our code provides that there shall be no more than 6 number of speakers to any issue. If there are more than 6 registered speakers, then each side will be granted the same number of speakers. At this point, it looks like you have 3 pros, and then you have a multitude of cons. Or people that want to speak against the item on the annexation. So you would be broken up into 3 and 3 then for public comment on this issue. Yes.
So we will start with Dwayne Janicki.
Dwayne Janicki. If you take somebody, if you want to take somebody to court, you go to the courthouse, you fill out all the papers, you pay your money, you take the papers, they give you a court date, and then you take your papers to the sheriff or to get the person served. But you have to give that person so many days, and those days don't start when you hand the sheriff the subpoena. Their time starts when they're served, and if they're not served in time, it doesn't count. Well, a little over 2 weeks ago, I came home and there was a note on my door from the post office that said I had a certified letter in the mail. Well, I got busy, and finally Saturday I went down to the post office and signed for the certified letter that said 2 weeks ago the city was going to talk about annexation. But I didn't get served my legal notice until 2 days ago. And I believe that there's a tremendous amount of other people that probably haven't got their legal notice yet. Because my letter said I had till the 24th of May to go pick up my letter. And the city's not going to know who got served and who didn't until sometime after that. Because that's when they'll receive their notice that this person picked it up or this person didn't pick it up. And I guess if you don't pick it up in that by that time, then it officially means that you're served. But I didn't get served until 2 days ago. So I don't think that that's the 15 days of notice that legally I am entitled to. So I don't believe that you can vote on that tonight, because I don't believe that people got served in the timely manner like the law says. Thank you.
Thank you, Dwayne. Next is Ben Heiler.
Good evening. My name is Ben Heiler. I've spoken here before. Pardon me. I'm the owner of Silver Creek Gaming Lounge, located on South Street. Just wanted to say, some of you people are business owners. Me and my sister were 50-50 owners in this business. Started it in December of last year, 2018. We went through all the laws, the rules. We knew we were in the county. We're in Silver Creek Township. All right. We invested considerable amount of money. We're talking about $10,000 to $20,000 into this business. We got our local liquor license. We have our state liquor license. Right now we could put an open sign in the window and be a bar. But we choose not to, because we aren't a bar. We're a gaming lounge. We don't even have bar stools. Now the city of Freeport wants to annex that in, and if we have to follow by this 50-50 rule, we're not going to be able to be open. I'm a viable entity. I knew where we were opening in Silver Creek Township. I'm from Freeport, grew up in Freeport. I mean, is this really how Freeport treats their business owners? I mean, there's got to be some compromise. I have no promises at the end of the year to stay open. My sister is already moving back here in 3 weeks. She's got no promise of a job next year. What is she supposed to do? I mean, as a business owner, and this wouldn't be my last business opening in Freeport, but now there's no promises. We're two viable entities. We opened, we knew what the rules, the laws were. How would you guys, if you were a business owner, you opened, you put all that time and effort in, put that money in. You're looking at having plans of moving a whole family back here to Freeport. And now your dreams are just crushed. No compromise, nothing. I don't think that's very Freeport-like. That's all I have.
Thank you, Ben.
He offered me the rest of his time, and I might need it. If I can finish the first 47 seconds, I'll get started. Number one, I'd like to just address maybe not the most important issue, but once again, I'm Rich Hoffmaster. Home rule is one of the issues that have been brought up in this issue. And if we go below 25,000, we're going to lose home rule. Well, what I've done my little research, and I found out that if we go below 25,000, we're going to continue to have home rule, and it will be voted on whether to put on the next ballot. And then the citizens of this fine community will vote on it. And I will have your recommendation of what you should do with that if this goes through tonight. Thursday night, I was at the county board meeting. They took action. They couldn't take action, any legal action, but they had a show of hands. There was 22 people on the county board. Every one of them was against this. There was 10 residents of the city of Freeport. They were all against this. There was no involvement from this city council to get them involved to talk about the issues with the gambling and other issues. If you'd like, you may start my time. They would like to be involved in this because, quite frankly, they're losing citizens of the county, Silver Creek, and they're losing a business and other business on South Street. That appears to be one of the biggest issues. The only involvement they had was they were notified 18 months ago or 12 months ago that the city was looking at long-term goals to annex properties into the city. After that, they had no involvement. And and I understand one of the biggest issues is gambling. And I would say if gambling is the issue, if Hyler's business is the issue, then make that the issue. I think you could come up with some recommendations and work with the county to resolve that. What this is going to do to my wife and I've worked 45 years at Kelly, 42. My wife and I's lifestyle will be devastated out there in that little property we have of 4.6 acres. I've had most of the council members out there this week. I appreciate you coming out. I've talked to all but one on the phone. I've talked to the mayor. I've talked to Manager Crow. My property will not be allowed. I cannot afford to bring my property up to the standard that the city requires. The biggest issue will be the septic line, the sewer line across the creek. By law, they have to provide septic sewer lines adjacent of their property. My property goes to the north side of the creek. I live on the south side. What will it cost to run my sewer line 150 yards under the creek and up? Manager Crow says he'll work with me on that. I don't know. I don't care who pays for it. You're going to trench 150 feet underneath the creek to provide service for one house. That's ludicrous. I got so much. The mayor says uniformity is important in this effort to annexation. They've already offered me exceptions of how to address some of the issues that won't be provided to me. We're going to make exceptions for me, and I say if you're going to make exceptions for me, it ought to be South Street and everybody else. They're not going to be able to provide the services to me. The real issue, one of the issues that I think the city, I wish I had more time, the city has to look at, as the county mentioned the other night in their discussion, the council administrator says one benefit the council will have is that the Freeport is going to inherit Walnut Street. They're going to inherit 1.5 miles of road for 3 residences, 4 people, which has a total value of less than $250,000 assessed value. There's a bridge on there in Yellow Creek that is already in need of repair. They are budgeting that into the county. They're saying we won't have to budget that anymore because that's going to be the city's problem. You're going to gain $250,000 of assessed value, and it's going to cost you, I can't even imagine, to trench underneath there.
Thank you,
I got
Rich.
4 more pages of important stuff. But I will say this last thing, Mayor, please. You and the manager and many people say, get the community involved. We're having coffee in the coffee shops. Come bring your complaints to us. And we want to listen, and we want your involvement. And if this goes through tonight, as is, you're telling the community, you're telling everybody, we don't want your opinion. We have raised questions that we don't have answers for, and we don't know what it's going to cost and what it's going to benefit us. If this goes through tonight, you're telling everybody, we don't want to hear your complaints and your issues. Thank you.
Thank you, Rich. Gary Quinn.
Thank you for letting me have a moment. I'm going to approach this in a little different way. I want to ask you, if you were going to invite one representative from every unit of government in Stevenson County to a dinner, how many chairs would you need around that table? Any idea? You would need 94 chairs unless you wanted to join them, and then you would need 95. What I'm saying is that in Stevenson County, we have 94 separate taxing bodies. If you throw in TIF districts, we have 107. Now, down the road is a lovely little town called Rydot. And I mean that, it's a lovely village. In Rydot, this week, 17 different combinations of property tax bills dropped in Rydot. 17. I submit to you that that is ungovernable. That's ludicrous. So my argument is based on simplicity. In the world I live in, you can't manage by exception. And yet what we're doing is every day we're asking the police, the firemen, and all the city staff to manage by exception. When 911 rings, do all of the 911 operators have to memorize the list of addresses that are not inside the city? Do the cops have to know that? Do the firemen have to know that? In split-second decisions, how much time is wasted running against some arbitrary index? Look, I get why people are upset. I truly do. But we make things so complicated for our public servants, and this is one opportunity we have to simplify it. The post office defines Freeport very differently from the way we do. The post office says that inside zip code 61032, there are 32,000 people living. I've often argued that the city limits in the zip code should be exactly the same. To the arguments about home rule, I don't think that this annexation would influence that at all. The numbers don't work, and in spite of what we say about losing it or having it, there'll be an opportunity to address that argument later on. Just thank you very kindly for your...
Thank you, Gary. Tim Mahoney.
Evening. Thank you, everybody, for giving me a chance to come in. Initially, as part of the Liquor Commission, as a member of that commission, I wanted to say, in support of the annexation, what's going on South Street is exactly what the new liquor regulations were trying to avoid and eliminate. A setup where you have a series of parlors was what the electorate indicated that they didn't want, and what the new liquor code was trying and did, in fact, get rid of. Now, I think that we should, I am a business owner, I think we should do that with the least amount of harm possible. If there's any way, obviously these people have put significant amount of money in these businesses. They have not been given a great amount of notice as to how that happened. I'm certainly not insensitive to that. If there's any way that that can be resolved, maybe a year to come in compliance, I don't know. But I do think that consistency in our city in terms of the regulations is something that everybody wanted and should be done. This city went in a new direction 2 years ago. We picked a new form of government a little over 2 years ago. We picked a new form of government, and that new form of government has made a lot of very difficult decisions that I think have been pushed down the road for years and years and years. This is the first time I've been asked to be part of this city's government structure other than the township, and it's been an honor to do so. I think that the mayor and the city manager have done a great job in taking us in new directions. I think the downtown is an example of that, and I think the city has progressed forward because of that. Like the decisions or not, decisions in fact are being made. And once a decision is made, then we can move on to the next one, and then we can move on to the next one. This is an example of something that should have been dealt with 30 years ago. The donut hole should have been dealt with a long time ago and shouldn't have been allowed to be let go to this standard. I was involved in litigation regarding the city and the township's coterminous status on this 25 years ago, and the donut hole litigation had already gone to the Supreme Court. The reality is that people are receiving services that they're not paying for, and this levels the playing field. I know several people in the audience. I just spoke to somebody as I came in who indicated, I'm going to have to pay in order to bring my sewer line to the sewer from my house. And I said, yes, we all do. That's what you have to do. The city has to bring the sewer to your property, you bring it in. Tell me if I'm wrong when you guys get a chance to debate this stuff. I think that that's correct. That's what this is all about, is making it so that we all pay the same thing. I had a lawsuit that got resolved last year, and a girl died along with her child because the 911 operator didn't know if a stop sign was in Stevenson County or was in Ogle County. That's a piece of confusion that is dangerous and should not happen. 911 operators and police officers shouldn't have to decide if something's in the city or not. Thank you.
Thank you, Tim. Troy Barr.
Thank you. Troy Barr, business owner in downtown Freeport. I'm not going to be able to follow Mr. Mahoney as well, certainly not as well dressed as him. I apologize. I came from working out so I can eat Mrs. Mike's later. I do apologize. I look terrible. So, you know, Mr. Mahoney actually said a word that rings true, and it's consistency. And, you know, as a business owner, I just received my liquor license application, and my choice was to open a business in downtown Freeport. I recognized that. I knew all the rules. I had to follow the rules. I had to pay for the rules, and that's just part of being a business owner. And I recognized that when I chose the location I did, my costs were going to be X. Now, I understand and hear Mr. Heiler speak tonight about him choosing to open a business and how do we treat Freeport people and how do we treat Freeport businesses. But in the same note, he also says, I chose to be in the county. Those are two different things. And we make choices, and I understand they made a choice to follow the rules according to the county, but consistency within regards to where they're located, I think, is important to look at. And I don't know the history of the donut holes, but it just seems to me to be common sense to bring those donut holes into a wholeness. You know, again, I think it's important that we all follow the same rules. You know, Mr. Clem educated us last week a little bit about the tax dollars and how, you know, when it was voted that these parlors were not bringing sales tax in, you know, it was important to have something that not only brought in gaming money, but also brought in sales tax. And again, I think it's important that we stay consistent within the city limits. And again, it's just my opinion as a business owner and as a resident that those are things that you have to consider. So thank you for your time.
Thank you, Troy. That concludes the public comment portion of tonight's meeting.
Last two meetings, we had 6 people vote, 6 people discuss it, and only 1 opposed to it. Why is it being limited to 3 tonight?
Sir, a point of order would only be appropriate by a member of the council, so.
If anyone would like to ask a question,
So item number 4 is the second reading of ordinance 2019-29. Madam Clerk, could you please read this for the record?
An ordinance annexing territory surrounded or nearly surrounded by the city into the city of Freeport.
Manager Crowe.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. As we discussed both for first reading and in the committee, the whole, that we are annexing the donut holes, which are less than 60 or less acres that are surrounded by the city. These are throughout the city. The purpose that we did this was to bring in uniformity of code and building codes within the city. The reason we are doing it by the 31st was so that was what the requirements are for filing the ordinances for the census and with the state as we move forward so they can count. The annexation has to be completed by the 31st of December. I've been asked prior to the meeting by one of the council members to kind of lay out the timeline and discuss a few other things. So we have looked at all of the water. I've had both my team here. We have connections throughout. In fact, we have 9 properties that are either receiving water or sewer here. Within 10 days of annexing, we believe that we can get fire hydrants within the areas to provide at a cost of about $20,000 across all the properties. The sewer, we are looking, there are 2 areas where we have problems with sewer right now. That's on South Street and Walnut Street. We are looking at options. We have an option on South Street to bring in sewer if required. And Walnut Street, we have 4 options we are looking at going forward. And those options have a wide range of cost as we go forward. But those, you only have, the residents or the businesses that are in this area only have to connect to water and sewer if their well fails or if there's a septic field fails. They do not have to do that. We are also going to meet, some of the timeline is that after, if we get this ordinance approved, we will then meet with the Zoning Board of Appeals the first Thursday, where we will review each properties, compare the city zoning versus the county zoning. There are some areas that they don't. One example is, I'll use is ag. The county has 2 ag zonings. We only have a single one. So the ZBA, at that time, the homeowners, residents, business owners can come in and ask and request if they are desired, and I've had 2 already approach us that they want to change the zoning on their pieces of property. At that point, and we'll go to the Planning Commission if there are any changes the following week, and then to the council the 3rd week in June. 30 days after the passing of the ordinance, we have to officially notify the county assessor of what we have determined the properties are zoned at, so that they can register those going forward. We have to notify the state within by no later than December 31st, as well as the Census Bureau going forward. And so the other thing that's going to meet is the Liquor Commission will meet in June. It's the 3rd week in June, second week in June, 2nd Thursday, to discuss any issues dealing with these properties and that are required with the liquor ordinances. What we are going to make the recommendation going forward is it will be treated as a renewal liquor license. It will not be a new liquor license, and it will continue. Your current liquor license will continue through the expiration date that is set up by the county, and at that point it will be treated as a renewal. And what they're going to do on grandfathering, that is up to that's up to the Liquor Commission as we go forward to make a recommendation for council. And so we've looked at all of these. We've gone very much in detail looking at the water and sewer connections, have had multiple discussions as how we're going to go forward. And I did have a discussion that we would, depending on where we're going to, with the properties, with Dwayne Janicki's property and Mr. Hoffmaster's property, Rich Hoffmaster, that we would work with them depending on which direction we have to come into the property as we're looking at sewer, and we'll look at the same thing on the South Street properties. We are going to have to bring in a couple roads into the city. One of them is the frontage road in front of the Martin property, and then as he talked about, Walnut Street, I believe we may be already plowing, but Dennis, I'm going to ask you to comment on that.
Walnut Street is currently plowed by the county
Okay.
because we have an agreement with them that we plow a couple of their roads and they plow Walnut for us.
So we'll take over Walnut. As per the Walnut Street Bridge, that comes out of county bridge money, which is actually federal money that is given to the state for the county. And as we go forward, much with the Detmer Bridge, we work and go forward and apply through that money through IDOT District 2. So as we go, our cost on that would be our match on that bridge. And I am standing by for any additional questions.
Council.
Don't everybody jump in? I'll start out,
Alderman Clem.
if I could. A couple of items, and this is nothing more than clarity, because I have to watch what I do here on, as far as legal, not legal, whatever. It was brought up that when I moved this proposal to the floor, that I had to vote for it, okay? I'd just like to know where that ruling comes from.
So if you move it forward on the same day, you would have to vote for it. You do not have to vote for it, since we've had I've gotten rulings from both attorneys. You do not have to vote for this today, because we've had further discussion on it. As you making the motion, you cannot discuss negative on the negative side. You can't offer amendments to it. So, but you can vote against it.
Okay. Could I continue? One of the things that I found out from talking to some of our people on the county board, a few people that called me over the weekend, and we talked about this. There's one thing I found that's very clear, that I don't care how we do it, when we do it, and I'm saying we, I'm going to be gone in 10 minutes, so how it is handled, but it's quite obvious that the city council has absolutely nothing, knows nothing what the county board is doing, and the county board knows absolutely nothing what the city is doing. And I believe that really needs to change. However, you know, if it comes up with, like it was recommended, maybe you and whoever meet, but some of us all have to get on the same page. Theoretically, 54% of the people in Stephenson County are citizens of the city of Freeport, which gives us 12 votes on the Stephenson County Board. Now, if surely we were all working for Freeport, we'd all be thinking somewhat alike, but we don't know what each other are thinking. So I think it's extremely important as we move forward. This is something that's really resolved. In your conversation, if I can continue, in your conversation here, one of the things I kind of want to make sure doesn't happen, okay? Everybody that I've talked to, I don't care if they were pro, con, or whatever, said this was the most horse crap way that this ever could have been done. You know, I agree because the thing that made it that was the May 31st deadline for the census and all that, which was not known. But I want to make sure that we don't take and rush, if we do this, that we don't take and rush, like the work with the ZBA, the work with the Liquor Commission, the other things that come forward on this, because the way it sounded, it was going to be kind of a boom, 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 and I want to make sure that if this process goes through, which I will say I support, but if this project goes through, what I'm going to make sure that happens is it goes through where it's advantageous for as many people as it can be involved in. Now, the other thing that comes up in notes or in different things that come forward is the fact of the greatest problem in my mind to resolve, okay, is the liquor issues. I think that all of this can be resolved one way, but I have to bring this up. I just have to. The county, the lawyer for the county board is Steve Cox, that approved the go-ahead for the liquor license to one of the Hyler properties. Is that?
No, Steve is not.
Steve, in an email I got back from a county board member, it
Okay.
said, quote unquote, Steve Cox said we could submit this.
Okay.
Now, Steve Cox happens to be the person for the city
liquor
for our
commissioner.
ordinances and all that stuff. Is that correct?
He is the liquor commissioner as well as the planning and ZBA attorney. Yep,
And would I also be incorrect in he's saying that he's Brian Hyler's attorney?
that's correct.
Now, is that a conflict of interest?
It is.
Okay, then I think somebody has to talk about that. And we can't bypass the Liquor Commission, as Mr. Mahoney talked about being on the Liquor Commission. I don't think we as a council can sit here and bypass what they could do or what they should do. That should go through a proper process that everybody can work together to try and get resolved to that. So as we look at this, we hear that, well, I think it's great that you said that Mr. Heiler would be brought in as grandfathered in, or so to speak, not grandfathered, but brought in as a re-up on a license,
That's
not
correct.
a new license.
That's correct.
Okay, so that gives them some advantage to take a look at. But I think somehow we can't take for granted that we can comfortably say tonight, and I'm not saying the new council should do this, or I'm not saying it should be done in 6 months, but I think some resolve or some more discussion, I think, needs to be done there a little bit of who's comfortable with what. You know, I'm comfortable that there can be a process. I'm comfortable that the places that are agriculture now should remain agriculture. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about that. You know, and any minor changes that would have to be done to keep somebody in that or to do is a minor detail, I think. So that's the only concern I have as we take a look at this. I just want to make sure that we've got these things covered to the point that the people involved or what we think we can do, if we've done everything we can do to make it as easy as possible for the people to take care of this. The one other thing that everybody has told me, that has talked to me about this, everybody has said, quote unquote, this should have been done 40 years ago. Everybody agrees with that. If you take a look at this situation of where these properties are at, you got to say to yourself, how could they ever leave 3 properties next to Shopko? Or how could, you know, I mean, just some things that are so stupid, or the ones out at the end of Galena when they took in McKiskey's properties and all that kind of stuff out there. There's 2 properties sitting there next to the church. You know, why didn't they do them that? You know, I guess the one thing, you know, we use the word consistency, but I don't think it's the consistency as much as we should do something right, you know. So I guess that's all that I got to say right now. I hope I didn't speak against it.
Alderman McClanahan.
Thank you. A couple questions in regards to the liquor council issue. In light of that, Attorney Cox would not be
No.
handling the issues for the commission if there's a conflict, correct?
Correct. We would bring in, so that is the why he normally, as the real estate attorney, he would have been handling the annexation. And that's why when we move forward with this, he asked Attorney Zito to take the lead on the annexation.
Follow, Mayor? Okay. And I had also another question for Attorney Zito. Do you have any concerns in regards to any statutory compliance throughout this process?
No, the necessary notices that were sent out pursuant to the timeframes that were set forth in the annexation statute.
Okay. Additional comment then? All right. I've spoken at length in regards to this, spoken with a fair amount of constituents in a variety of forms in regards to it, so I'll keep these comments here tonight pretty brief. But if council's indicating, obviously, he doesn't believe we have a statutory issue in regards to those issues on it. We've had 3 public meetings in regards to this matter. Looking at the substance, consistency is an appropriate word. I agree with Alderman Clem that, once again, this is another issue that I wish had been addressed many years ago. It wasn't. It's in front of us now. And some of the issues that are arising and that we're hearing in regards to this comments highlights the need for that consistency. You can't have right in the middle of the city a debate as to whether there's county rules or not. In a perfect world, the county would be, and look, I mean, full disclosure, I've got friends in the county government, I've got friends on the county board, I've got acquaintances, things of that nature. And so I'm not, this isn't to say anything disparaging about the county board. Take out Stevenson County, throw in whatever county you want on it, and then whatever municipality, the same analysis applies. You should not have in the middle of the municipality an issue as to whether or not certain ordinances are going to be applied in a county way or a city way. And up to 1.5 miles outside of the county. And so cleaning up these donut holes will allow that there won't be that tension in regards to the question of are we having county rules or are we having city rules in regards to it. It's a non-issue on that. And again, we've talked about services in regards to this and consistency of services. It was addressed by some of the comments as well, whether we're talking police department, whether we're talking fire department, whether we're talking street departments. We should have a consistency of services throughout. And if you're inside the city limits, receiving certain services in regards to that, you should be paying the city taxes in regards to that. And if you're outside, then you wouldn't be receiving either the taxes or the services on it. And again, we shouldn't be in a situation where we're pitting businesses against each other because we've got some donut holes on here. These need to be cleaned up. If they're not cleaned up tonight, when are they going to be cleaned up? Because those issues aren't going to go away. That disparity of services versus who's paying isn't going to go away. That conflict between are these county rules or are these city rules won't go away. We have a history throughout the last 4 years of this council of taking issues that have been decades in the making, addressing them, making some tough decisions in regards to them, and making decisions that are in the betterment of the city of Freeport and moving forward. This is one of these other issues as well. I said it last meeting, but it bears worth repeating. As representatives of the constituents of the city of Freeport, I have a very hard time looking at the rest of the 23, 24, 25, whatever the population is, and telling them you need to continue paying for these services that certain other properties are receiving but aren't paying the taxes for. That's a fairness issue for the constituents that elected us. Let's clean this up. Let's clean this up tonight. I appreciate the accommodation that has been made by alderpersons willing to go out and speak with individuals, going to properties and speaking with them in regards to how this will impact the individuals, the administration making themselves available. I appreciate the process that's been laid out by Manager Crow in regards to how we're going to go forward and how this is going to be implemented. But I do believe that the appropriate decision, for the reasons stated, is to go forward with this evening. Thank you.
Mayor. Excuse me, Mayor.
Alderman Keister.
Pardon me, my voice is cracking a little bit. I'm curious, we were talking about services with police and fire, street department. I understand some of the street departments, just because they go by that way, they plow it. But with the police and fire, the numbers that have been given, were those calls specifically in the donut hole area, or were those calls just specifically outside of Freeport?
I'm going to ask the fire and police chief, because they're the ones who gave me the numbers.
Could you explain that just a little bit more?
Okay, what we're talking about tonight with this annexation is the services that are given to people in the donut hole that the people inside Freeport are paying for. Numbers have been given about the amount of police calls and about of fire calls that have gone outside of the city limits. The numbers that we were given, are these numbers specifically for calls in those donut holes, or are they the overall calls that are done outside the city limits?
No, the numbers that I provided Manager Crow were numbers to addresses that were in these particular donut holes.
Okay, thank you. And if I may continue, Mayor?
Actually, I think Fire wanted to respond.
Oh, I'm sorry, Scott.
Yeah, I concur. Those were numbers that we were given the addresses to, not just all of our mutual aid calls outside.
Okay, and if I may continue, once we patch up these donut holes and they get the city services, does that mean that if we get called outside the city, that these guys aren't going to go? Or how is that going to be addressed? Is there going to be a fee if they go across on a mutual aid call outside of town or something? Because I know, being a retired firefighter myself, I have responded to areas outside of the city of Freeport, both for ambulance and fire, that were not in these donut holes, that were outside the city limits, and we went because we were dispatched because there was a mix-up. How is that going to be addressed? Because if part of the reason for this is to keep people from paying for services for people outside the city limits, I don't feel that that's going to completely go away. How is the other issues going to be addressed?
So I know with fire, we have box cards that we follow, and for MABUS calls. An example was the shooting at Cedar Inn. We were called in because Freeport Rural and the other departments were over, and I'm going to turn it over to Fire Chief.
Alderman Keister, you know as well as I do that, you know, when a call comes in 911, we're all human, dispatchers are human, and the technology, while it's improved over the last 25 years, it's still not perfect. When somebody calls for help, we're going to go. We're not going to ask questions, and Freeport Rural is the same way. When they're called, they're going to go. So to say it's going to correct that problem, absolutely not. It's not going to correct that problem, but the donut holes do exist inside the city of Freeport, and they will help clarify that for both police and fire.
And Intern Chief Townsend, I appreciate your answer, and I understand what you're talking about with the MABUS box and stuff, but you also understand what I'm saying too. There are calls that we get outside the city limits that aren't MABUS boxes and stuff. You know, that's why I was asking the question, how many was in the donut holes and how many was not, and you guys successfully answered that. I just want to make sure that with your statement, if we get the call, you're going to go anyway. I just want to make sure that people understand that just because we clear up these donut holes doesn't mean that this whole problem of going outside the city limits on accidental calls is going to go away.
I would agree with that statement, but I don't really look at it as a problem. You know, when someone's in need, they're going to call 911, and the patch on my uniform doesn't really dictate the services that we're going to provide. I know you know that. And the same with the rural departments. They respond when they're asked to, and sometimes they respond to addresses that were perhaps inside the city limits. I do believe that this will help clarify for our dispatchers and clean up a lot of that stuff within the city. Outside the city, it is what it is. We're still going to respond, you know?
Yeah. Okay, and I understand that, and I appreciate your answer. Thank you.
Just to expound on that just a little bit, some of those numbers that I provided, City Manager, probably weren't dispatched incorrectly. My officers likely heard the call and was close and realized that the county wasn't going to be able to get there as quickly. It was an in-progress call, and we went anyway, and then they generated a call based on that. So many times if we get an alarm call or it looks like somebody's breaking into, like, you know, the veterinary on South Street, that's in the county, my guys are going to go. They're going to go. I mean, any chance to catch a burglar, we're going to go for sure. So those are some of those numbers would be.
Thank you. And if I may have one final follow-up, Mayor.
Sure.
And I appreciate the answers. And the thing is, I just want, and I'm not trying to stir anything up by this, I'm just trying to clarify the numbers and stuff, that we're doing it for the properties we're discussing and not taking all the numbers that have done outside the city and using them as an excuse. And you guys did clarify that, and I do appreciate that.
Madam Mayor.
Alderman Brashaw.
Thank you. I do appreciate, Manager Crow, you looking at the sensitivity of the situation with individual circumstances. As a council member, that was one of the challenges I was looking at. I realize that some of the folks here are not happy with us and probably won't be for some time. But we did ask him to look at individual circumstances and as best he could sort out some of them and see what we could do legally to help individuals. He has really looked at that liquor license issue and tried to treat it as a renewal to keep the costs down for the business owners. He's talked to water sewer and then also brought up with our ordinance that the folks only have to connect to water sewer if their well or septic fails. I think that's a great situation to look at also. I know he is looking at options for the sewer on South Street and Walnut Street. As Alderman McClanathan spoke, and I do agree with him on this, we represent our constituents in our individual wards as well as the whole of Freeport. I have over 3,800 people I answer to in my ward, and it would be really hard for me to go to each one of them and say, you know, you're paying taxes for your services, but the folks in this hole don't have to pay taxes for those services. We need to look at the uniformity and consistency and also safety for all. And we're dealing with an issue that should have been dealt with 25 or 30 or 35 years ago, and no one had the courage to step forward and say, yeah, this needs to be done. Other communities are stepping forward and closing up their donut holes to make sure their services are alike and everyone is treated fairly, and everyone is looking at those factors as well. Anyhow, I am still I'm still for annexation. I'm not against anyone in this room or their circumstance, and I'm still willing to work with them on individual circumstance if I can with Manager Crow and staff. And I feel for each person that feels like they're being treated unfairly. We all have that viewpoint at some point in our life. And as a council member, I sometimes feel like I'm being treated unfairly with all the pressure and the pounding. But I still have to vote for what I think is the best thing for Freeport as a whole. What is the best for the majority of the citizens? And I have to vote for this. Thank you.
Any further discussion, council? Alderman Burberry.
Thank you. Way back in the last century, I majored in political science in college. And finally getting a taste of being involved. What you read in textbooks, what you write term papers about, is very different than what I am experiencing now, what we are experiencing. This is a representative form of government. Not necessarily a total democracy, but a representative form of government. And we each represent our areas, our wards, our city. And I do appreciate, I'm learning on the job. We have 2 new aldermen joining us tonight, and they're going to learn on the job too. And it takes some time. I appreciate the opportunity to have gone out and visited with several of the constituents who have concerns, talked to some of those who agree with the process. But I'll vote my conscience tonight. And my experience personally with donut holes was I bought a house in Harlem Township back in the 70s. I got forced in because we were a donut hole out on the west side of Freeport. And I had a sewer jammed down my throat. I had to pay for a sewer project. Raising 2 girls in private school, I didn't like that. I wasn't investing in a business, I was investing in my family. And I didn't like that. But I did it because I believed I wanted to be part of a better Freeport. And so did my family. And that's how I think about this tonight, leaving Freeport a better place. Thank you.
Anything else, council? Alderman Ross.
Okay, my name's Art Ross. I'm the 3rd Ward Alderman. I always said that being an alderman is not the easiest job in the world, and it is not. And the decision that's going to be made tonight, for me, it's not going to be an easy one. But if it's going to help, well, I'll speak up then. How's that? Okay. All right. Like as I stated, it says being an alderman is not an easy job. It's a very difficult job. At one time in your life, you should sit here and find out exactly what's going on, because it's not an easy job. But I've, in the 4 years I've been here, and the entire my life living on the east side of Freeport, it's not been easy. I've always dealt with the flooding, and I will continue to deal with the flooding. But we're not here about the flooding. We're hearing about the annexation. Now, with that being said, is that if this is going to help move Freeport forward, okay, fine. And to me, it's just a very difficult decision to make. But I know I'm going to make the right decision. At least I feel I am, because I want everybody to, after it's said and done, I want everybody to be treated fairly. The council, not to say the council, but all the other boards, you know, the city, I believe the city's gonna be, is willing to work with you to leave you in that lifestyle that you're in right now. If your property is ag, it's gonna remain ag. If you wanna change a property, let's go and change it. Go to the zoning board, let's change it. But we have to try. We can't just give up. So basically what I'm saying, let's get through this. Let's try and move forward, because that's what it's all about. And it's not about seeing who got the beat on their chest the biggest. No, it's about moving Freeport forward. Thank you.
Anyone else? Madam Clerk, please take the roll on the passage of the ordinance 2019-29.
Keister.
No.
Berberay.
Aye.
Clem.
Aye.
McClanathan.
Aye.
Ross.
Aye.
Parker.
Aye.
Busker.
No.
Brashaw.
Aye.
Motion passes 6-2.
Thank you. Item number 5 is the second reading of ordinance 2019-30. Could you please read this for the record?
An ordinance amending Title VI, Administration, Chapter 251, Director of Information Technology, GIS Specialist, and amending Title 10, Employment Provisions, Chapter 290, Compensation and Benefits of the Codified Ordinances of the City of Freeport to create a new position of Deputy Director of Information Technology.
Thank you. Manager Crow.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This is creating the new position of Deputy IT Director under the IT department. We worked this in conjunction with the police department and and Kurt, IT director, to correct some issues that we have. This is a non-union position, exempt position. As we go forward, this will actually reduce the cost of the position which we currently have, which is data processor, data analysis, by $10,000. So it'll create a deputy that can serve when Kurt is not available, and both serve in the position at both council meetings and department head meetings. I'm standing by for any questions.
Madam
Thank
Mayor.
you. Alderman Brashaw.
Thank you. Manager Crow, will this person have the same identical duties as the former person?
They are actually having more duties. Their duties more closely relate to what Kurt has. They will have also responsibilities for the fire and police department. Kurt is currently doing those duties as well, since the data analyst isn't currently not filled. So we're creating this new position.
Follow-up, Mayor? Manager Crow, if this person is being paid substantially less, do you think we'll find a quality person that can do those duties plus the extra duties in that position?
So we've already put the applications out, and we've gotten, we had over 15 applications for them, and we've got interviews for 4 set up once this is passed.
Follow-up?
If it's passed.
Sure.
Well, that sounds wonderful. I'm glad to hear that. And my last question is this a full-time position with benefits?
It is a full-time position with benefits.
Thank you, sir.
Question.
Alderman Parker.
Well, this person, you said, be working with the police, fire, and IT. Who will this person be answering to?
I'll be answering to the IT director. And we've cleared, I know there's some concerns about the requirements and in dealing with dispatch and leads. We've cleared that through the appropriate individuals as we've gone forward. Okay. And Todd, that's why Todd was involved in this discussion right from the very beginning.
Thank you.
Further discussion, council? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, could you please take the roll on the passage of ordinance 2019-30?
Keister.
Aye.
Berberay.
Aye.
Clem.
Aye.
McClanathan.
Aye.
Ross.
Aye.
Parker.
Aye.
Busker.
Aye.
Brashaw.
Aye.
Ordinance passes 8-0.
Thank you. Item number 6 is the second reading of ordinance 2019-31. Could you please read this?
An ordinance to provide for public transportation in the city of Freeport and throughout Stevenson County fiscal year 2020 for the federal 5311 grant.
Thank you. Director Zupkoff.
Thank you, Your Honor. Just a reminder of what this is. This ordinance is an annual requirement as we finalize our applications for the state and federal funding for Pretzel City Transit. It formally states that we provide public transportation in Freeport and Stevenson County and makes us eligible to receive state and federal grant funds to operate Pretzel City Transit.
Questions, Council?
Madam Mayor,
Alderman Bradshaw.
thank you. Mr. Zupkoff, I believe we talked about this before, and we're basically just doing the same thing we've done before, except for you've changed the dates, correct?
That's essentially correct, yes.
Thank you, sir.
Anything further, Council? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, please take the roll on the passage of ordinance 2019-31.
Keister,
Abstain.
Berberay,
Aye.
Clem,
Aye.
McClanathan,
Aye.
Ross,
Aye.
Parker,
Aye.
Busker,
Aye.
Brashaw.
Aye.
The ordinance passes 7-0 with 1 abstention.
Thank you. So now we'll move on to item number 7, which is the swearing in of our new alderman by the Honorable Michael Bald, our presiding judge of the 15th Judicial Circuit Court of Illinois. And we would like to say thank you again to Alderman Clem and Alderman Keister for their years and years of service, and we appreciate all that you've done for us.
Get it?
It's been a pleasure serving with you.
It's been a pleasure.
Thank you, Mike. Michael?
Don't forget your soda, Mike. Your soda.
Do you want to face the camera, Judge? You want to face the, so you can see it from the camera? Sideways. There you go. There you go. Perfect.
Oh, that's why you guys are all standing. Yeah, okay.
guys.
Well, congratulations to the 6 of you. You'll get to officially do the roll call. Madam Clerk.
Mayor Miller,
Here.
Alderpersons Misick,
Here.
Berberet,
Aye. Here.
Borneman,
Here.
McClanathan,
Here.
Ross,
Here.
Parker,
Aye, here.
Busker,
Here.
and Brashaw.
Here.
Okay, so we will move on to item number 9, which is the consent agenda. The consent agenda is considered to be routine in nature and acting as one motion unless there's a member of the council who would like to pull out something on specific discussion. Otherwise, we'll just move this in one motion. The consent agenda consists of approving and placing on file the police report for March 2019, the fire department incident and loss report for March 2019, building permits report for April 2019, the treasurer's report for both the fire and police pension fiscal year report ending May 1st, 2018 through April 30th, 2019, the cash and investment report for April 2019, and the financial reports for general fund, library, water, sanitary sewer, and the storm sewer funds for April 2019. Also is the approval of the finance bills payable in the amount of $797,910.46 and approval of the payroll for pay period ending May 11th, 2019 in the total of $540,828.74. Is there a motion for the approval of the consent agenda?
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
point of order.
Sure.
We have a consent agenda signatory here, but we have the old alderman on here, not the new alderman. So, but as point of order, we need to add a few names here and maybe remove a few. Can we just have them sign it?
Can we just add?
Is that possible?
That's fine if you want to just add a line where the new alderman will sign.
I will do that, or if that's all right.
ahead.
And then I would like to make a motion to accept the consent agenda with this one alteration, if
Second.
possible.
Okay, so we have a motion made by Alderman Brashaw, seconded by Alderman Busker to approve the consent agenda with the 2 additional names. Madam Clerk, could you please take the roll?
Misick,
Aye.
Berberet,
Aye.
Borneman,
Aye.
McClanathan,
Aye.
Ross,
Aye.
Parker,
Aye.
Busker,
Aye.
and Brashaw.
Aye.
That motion passes 8-0.
Thank you. Item number 10 is the first reading of ordinance 2019-32. Could you please read this?
An ordinance amending Part 8, Business Regulation and Taxation Code, Chapter 874, Regulation of Tobacco Products, and Chapter 650, Minors, Section 850.04, Sale of Cigarettes or Tobacco to Minors of the Codified Ordinances of the City of Freeport.
Thank you. Manager Crowe.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So this reflects the current state ordinance that has been passed. It reflects, the one exception is we have added vapor to this and puts the same restriction on vapor that tobacco has. It cannot be sold to 21-year-olds, but we will not prosecute them. It cannot be possessed by anybody under the age of 18. So that was the only difference between this and the state ordinance.
Mayor,
Alderman McClanathan.
could you remind me also what was the surveillance video? Was this getting us in line with the liquor ordinances to give you ease of enforcement, Police Chief?
The surveillance was tweaked just a little bit, that it would allow availability to the surveillance within a particular time, a short amount of time. We kind of take away the responsibility to make sure that all the employees knew how to operate it, but just that it was be available in a short, I think 15 minutes.
Okay.
Also, it changed from the words verbiage from 1 month to 30 days because that 1 month could change one way or another. So 30 days was a compromise that we went with.
Thank you.
Alderman Berberet.
Manager Carroll, could you explain a little bit about possession? Is that an age limit or no?
So
what's not even covered by this?
The current state law says that this is more the tobacco and codes and the vapor codes are more geared towards the business owner and the sale. It does not establish really a punishment for possession. However, it does say the state code says you cannot possess it under 18, but it doesn't really give an enforcement. We took out the original codes that had come in front of council put a possession portion in that. We have taken that out at the request of council and have, and so this puts the onus on, for the sale in accordance, and that's the way the state code, state law reads. But by passing our own, that gives the enforcement to the police to be able to enforce our own codes. It basically gives us the ability to receive the revenue from that penalty.
Madam Mayor.
Alderman Brashaw.
Thank you. So Manager Crowe, it absolutely mirrors the state code. So if someone came from out of town and were here,
With the exception of vapors.
the exception of vapors.
Vapors, we've added vapors into it. The state has not yet regulated those. We're treating them as the same as cigarettes.
Madam Mayor,
Alderman Busker.
is that vapor language, is that purely just for the sale, or is that also the locations of usage in the city?
It is, this is, again, geared towards the sale of those.
Madam Mayor,
Alderman Parker.
with that change, I'll make a motion to approve.
Actually, it would be a motion to move forward.
Motion to move forward then.
Who was the second? Okay, so before you, there's a motion made by Alderman Parker, seconded by Alderman Ross, to move ordinance 2019-32 on to the next regularly scheduled meeting. Is there any further discussion?
Madam Mayor.
Alderman Borneman.
Thank you. I'm not sure what the liquor code states about the length of time video surveillance needs to be stored. I see this says 30 days. Is that consistent with the liquor code?
It is. I'll ask Todd.
If we have video surveillance requirement in the liquor code?
Yes, I'm not exactly positive on that, but I wouldn't think that it would be anything different with the liquor.
So, I'll ask.
The liquor code refers to the tobacco code. The surveillance camera language is contained in the tobacco, and
That
it's
makes
just
sense.
been directed to that because that's where it existed previously.
Thank you. Can I follow up?
Sure.
One thing, I realize a lot of the reasons we would use surveillance in a situation like this is probably not to catch people selling to underage people, but identity theft cases where people come in and use credit cards. So traditionally, a bank statement isn't generated, but every 30 days, so that theoretically a person may not know they're a victim until 30 days. By the time they report that to the police, there's a chance that surveillance could be lost. Is there, I guess I would consider, I'd like the possibility of increasing that 30 days to account for situations like that.
Mayor,
Alderman McClanathan.
is that something we can look into between now
We-
and second reading on there?
We can look at it. I guess I need to have a discussion with Todd and Steve on this and find out. I know we've had some issues with surveillance videos, and that's one of the reasons why Chief Barkalow asked this to be addressed in here. And I'm not sure what our current, I know I'm the licensing officer for tobacco, but I'm not sure what the current video is.
Yeah, if I could. It's always a struggle. The 30 days is a struggle for some of them. It depends on the settings too, and on how, how many megapixels or whatever they want to store and to record at. But that typically seems to be a struggle. And you're exactly right, Alderman Borneman. We're not, although that can help us, to identify people selling cigarettes to minors, but it's all those convenience stores, across the board are subject to, violent crimes or any kind of crimes against persons or property at those particular locations. That's really is one of the main reasons why we like having those there. Thanks, so we'll take a look at that.
Anything further, council?
And I've written that down, that we'll have a discussion. So we will not have a committee of the whole between this and the next one. So we'll have a discussion. I'll let council know what the recommendation is, and we'll forward, if that needs to be forward, we'll bring that up to the next council meeting.
Okay, so we will move on to item number 11, which is the adoption of Resolution 2019-25. Madam Clerk, could you please read this?
Resolution of the City of Freeport authorizing and approving an amendment to a redevelopment agreement between the City of Freeport and TriStar Metals LLC.
Thank you. Manager Crowe.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This establishes the redevelopment agreement for TriStar, the $100,000 with them to give them. They have already pulled their permits and given us their plans. They are planning to begin work sometime within. They had to meet some requirements that Director Card put them on, or make sure that as we went forward, so that they're ready to start work. That $100,000 will work at the delivery of those. As soon as they break ground, that's when we're going to give it to them. It also sets 25% increment to them to the continuation out. Now, this takes into consideration the TIF actually expires in 2029. But this TIF is up for, we can go and apply for extension of that TIF. We have the money within the TIF account, and to cover that, this RDA will go past the current life of the TIF, but we built into that because we expected to request the extension of this TIF. This also has the language into it that we're adding into our RDAs now, that once you take the RDA, you cannot protest your taxes. So the old RDA did not have that. The new modification in it does.
Questions, Council?
Madam Mayor.
Alderman Brashaw.
Thank you. Manager Crowe, for the listening public, I can't find my notes from our last meeting. I just wanted to ask you again, how many jobs does this add to the area, and how much is this expansion costing the business?
So it's a Andrew, 2.9 million expansion, and it's the minimum of 35 jobs, additional jobs to it. They are closing down their Carroll Stream plant to move that here, and they've already purchased the building. They're going to make the modifications to the building.
And follow-up? And so the TIF money, the tax incentive financing money we're giving to them to help them with this is money that's paid in increments from other businesses that are in the same financing district?
Well, the $100,000 is from the whole that we're giving up front to them. The 25% increment will be based upon the money that their new property generates.
Okay, thank you.
Any further discussion, Council?
Madam Mayor,
Alderman Brashaw.
motion to adopt the resolution R 2019-25.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion made by Alderman Brashaw, seconded by Alderman Parker for the adoption of Resolution 2019-25. Madam Clerk, please take the roll.
Misick.
Aye.
Berberet.
Aye.
Borneman.
Aye.
McClanathan.
Aye.
Ross.
Aye.
Parker.
Aye.
Busker.
Aye.
Brashaw.
Aye.
The resolution is adopted 8-0.
Thank you. Item number 12 is the adoption of Resolution 2019-26. Could you please read this?
Resolution of the City of Freeport authorizing and approving a downtown revitalization loan fund agreement between the City of Freeport and the Greater Freeport Partnership.
Thank you. Manager Crowe.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This was was presented by Andrea Winter from the Greater Freeport Partnership and discussed from Gary Quinn as we go forward. This is to cover the city took out a bond based upon the money that was from the TIF districts for the downtown TIF. We found that downtown TIF was not generating enough money to really help and support businesses. This initial bond, the money will be used to cover the first 25% as a gap financing tool for new businesses or to allow businesses to move into the downtown area. If you look at documents and studies, that having a vital downtown is vital to the survival and growth of a city. This is to really focus on the downtown area. You have to be within the downtown TIF to be eligible for this, and this is to promote those businesses down here. This has been in the works for City Center for over 2 years, and we're finally seeing this come to fruition.
Madam Mayor,
Alderman Brashaw.
Thank you. So this isn't part of the $78 million that the city is sitting on? I'm just kidding. I had to say it. I'm so sorry. That was a joke.
Mayor.
We know that's been part of social media, and I just had to make a little funny there. This is money that is coming from a revolving loan fund that the city is providing, and we are looking to get this money paid back to us by these businesses, and as a revolving fund, then be able to help future businesses and also support the GFP with the interest that is generated from this. Is this correct?
So the GFP will get 25% of the interest that's generated for this. The money will come back into this account. It'll be collected. The banks who partner with us on this will be the person that's collecting it. That 25% of the interest will go back for the GFP for managing and advertising this program for us. The GFP has 2 members on the board. The area banks have 2 members on the board. They'll be on 1 business and 1 city to review as we come forward.
One follow-up, Mayor. So I just wanted to clarify, we're not giving this to businesses. They have to pay it back.
That's correct.
Thank you.
Mayor.
That's what a loan means.
Mayor.
Alderman McClanathan.
Thank you. One item I do want to touch on, when you're talking about the use of this, since it's being paid by TIF funds, the bonds being paid by TIF funds, we can only use it for TIF eligible purposes, which are prescribed by statute, correct, Council?
Correct.
And what would be the ramifications if we were to use this money for something outside of the purposes of the TIF?
The money would have to be returned to the TIF fund.
Okay. It's basically it's against the law to do so.
Correct.
Just on a comment, as has been indicated a couple times, this arose out of a multi-year desire to look at how we were using the remaining life of the TIF. It was only generating a certain amount of increment, which, considering the length of the life of the TIF that we'd had to date, was not spurring as much increment as would be wanted at this stage of the TIF. And while facade grants and or infrastructure spending are beneficial supplemental uses, if we were to only use that as the primary purpose of it, we wouldn't really be maxing out the remaining life of this TIF. So the idea, this is the final step of it, is to infuse some of those funds into things that actually will generate increment also in that district, help be some gap financing as needed, spur development in these areas. And then you can have those other aspects such as the facade and things of that nature supplementing that efforts to maximize our dollars downtown. So I'm excited to see us finally at this point, and I look forward to supporting this tonight. And I actually would make a motion to approve Resolution 2019-26.
Second. Multiple seconds.
Well, I think I'll give that to the new guy.
The new guy.
We have a motion made by Alderman McClanathan, seconded by Alderman Misick for the adoption of Resolution 2019-26. Any further discussion, Council? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, please take the roll.
Misick.
Aye.
Berberay.
Aye.
Borneman.
Aye.
McClanathan.
Aye.
Ross.
Aye.
Parker.
Aye.
Busker.
Aye.
And Brashaw.
Aye.
That resolution is adopted 8-0.
Thank you. Item number 14 is the approval of an engineering for an IDOT job. Madam Clerk, could you please read those specifics?
Approval of engineer for IDOT job number 15-00163-00-BT, Phase 3, engineering of the Pecatonica Prairie Path, which is Tuddy's Crossing to US 20 bypass.
Thank you. Director Carr.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. This is the project that went out for bid earlier this year that we had suggested that we reject the bids and then put out for June. We're just looking to fill the Phase 3 engineering portion, so the on-site construction and all the paperwork to be included with the IDOT federal funded project. With this using MFT funds to pay for the engineering itself, the city had to follow quality-based selection guidelines as required by IDOT. This process included a 4-person selection committee. We reviewed the firms, whittled it down to about 3 firms, and then we brought all 3 firms in for interviews. Once those were done, we talked about the strengths and the weaknesses of each firm, and then we all came to the same general consensus, and that is that we request the approval from the City Council to begin negotiating with Fairgram of Freeport, Illinois to take part as our on-site Phase 3 engineer.
Madam Mayor,
Alderman Brashaw.
thank you. I was reading on the funding, the Phase 3 engineering will be 80% ITEP grant funding and 20% local match funds, with that 20% split into thirds between the city, park district, and county. Are they going to pay as we go, or we ponying this up front, or how is that going, and do we have this budgeted exactly?
We did include this in the budget. This is part of our capital plan that we had laid out. How these projects tend to go is IDOT will pay all the money up front, and then they send you a bill at the end.
They send us a bill, or all three entities, each a separate bill?
So for each one of the portions of the bike path, there's a different lead agency. And for this section, we are the lead agency. So they'll send the bill to us, and then Director Bucas will bill the Park District and the county as part of the agreement.
Okay, thank you.
Madam Mayor.
Alderman Busker.
And you, just making sure, you did say this is coming from motor fuel tax money?
Yes, it is.
All right, thank you.
Further discussion, council? Is there a
Madam Mayor?
motion for approval?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion made by Alderman Brashaw, seconded by Alderman Misick for the approval. It was, oh, I'm sorry. Seconded by Alderman Busker for the approval of the engineering for the IDOT job as stated. Madam Clerk, could you please take the roll?
Misick.
Aye.
Berberet.
Aye.
Borneman.
Aye.
McClanathan.
Aye.
Ross.
Aye.
Parker.
Aye.
Busker.
Aye.
And Brashaw.
Aye.
The motion passes 8-0.
Thank you. Item number 15 is the approval of the bids for the lawn mowing lease. Director Carr.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. As you guys will recall, back when we were when we were putting together the contract for the airport FBO, one of the items that he had required was a new mower, a new zero-turn mower. We had put that off until we had passed the new financial, or the new into the new fiscal year, and then the mower out at the airport had decided that it was on its last leg. So we had to kind of push this through a little bit quicker. This is the same Illinois Association statewide contract as we had purchased the mowers with that we use out at the cemetery as well as our public works. They come with about a 23% discount, and they are an approved statewide contract. The total lease amount is $12,261.48 amounts, or 48 cents, and the term is 60 months.
Questions, council?
Mayor.
Alderman Ross.
Okay, Director Carr, is this one of those zero turning radius mowers?
Yes, it is.
Okay. And the total price, we're gonna lease it, correct?
Yes, we are.
And the total price is 12,200, and what is it, 81 or 61?
61 and then 48 cents.
And then we have to turn it back in to them?
We then have a purchase option for $1.
Okay. Only reason I say that, because I did the math, it came out to 13,906.20.
That's with interest.
Because how much interest do you have on it?
I'm not sure what the percent is on it.
But at the end of the 5-year, excuse me, Mayor. But at the end of the 5-year lease, we can then purchase it for $1 from shall we say, the supplier who had it.
Dear, yes.
Yes.
Okay, that's what I was wondering.
Madam Mayor?
Alderman Misick.
I do see a copy of the lease. It does say 5.25%. And looking at this, so over the period of the 5 years with the interest applied, this appears to be a very reasonable amount. You know, having seen these type of equipment, like, so when this equipment was selected, what other equipment was also considered in that?
So when we go through so what we looked at was that this is a standard state lease for mowers. So when we go onto the state leasing for mowers, that much as we do for the state for police cars, we go out, they provide us who the provider is and who we can lease from. So we don't go out for general bid if we're going off the state bid. It gives us a reduced cost and better interest because municipalities throughout the state can use it.
Mayor again.
Alderman Ross.
So John Deere would be, excuse me, Director Carr. So John Deere would be responsible for all the upkeep on the mower, or since it's a lease?
We maintain it ourselves.
You do, you maintain, okay. Thank you.
Further questions, council? Is there a motion for approval?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion made by Alderman Busker, seconded by Alderman Berberay for the approval of the bid for the lawnmower lease. Madam Clerk, please take the roll.
Meissick.
Aye.
Berberay.
Aye.
Borneman.
Aye.
McClanathan.
Aye.
Ross.
Aye.
Parker.
Aye.
Busker.
Aye.
And Brashaw.
Aye.
Motion passes 8-0.
Thank you. Next is department head reports. Finance.
Thank you, Your Honor. It's been a while since I gave a report on our debt collection process, so if you don't mind, I'll take a few minutes to speak about that. As you recall, last year we entered a contract with Municipal Collection Services, Inc. to see if they could collect some of our very delinquent and very, very old bills, especially on the water and sewer side. We gave them over 3,000 records of people that owed us approximately $692,000 since March of last year. And so far they've collected a little over $25,000, or about a 3.6% return. We've also given them the last 2 months some of our nuisance violation notices, and we've placed about $22,600 with them to try to collect, and so far they've collected about a little over $1,100. During the same process and during the same time period, we also have been giving some of our delinquent accounts to the Illinois Department of Recovery offset portal, which is run by the Illinois Controller's Office. And basically what this does is if we put in a claim on someone, the state will hold their income tax refund until it's either paid, or if they challenge it, it's resolved. Just since the 1st of April this year, we've collected $23,000 from people that otherwise would have gotten tax refunds. Maybe they still did, but we got at least part of that money back. And that's all I have for tonight, Your Honor.
Thank you.
Mayor.
Yes.
Thank you. I appreciate the reports. Wanted to just briefly touch on one of the things that you had submitted for review in regards to the consent agenda, which was the fire and police pensions. Looking at what you had sent to us in regards to that, it looks like in regards to the fire, it was relatively flat. Would that be an accurate description in regards to receipts and disbursements, and then a slight favoring of receipts over disbursements on police? Am I reading that correctly?
Yes.
So over the last year, we didn't really substantially gain any ground on the unfunded liability. Is that an accurate statement?
That is true, yes.
Okay. And the measures that we took recently to help address that, we're going to start seeing that over the next year. Obviously, we can't account for what the market's going to do, but at least from our contribution standpoint, we should see that reflected over the next year's reports.
Yes, we should. And if you recall, back in December, actually starting in October, but we definitely saw it in December, the market took a pretty big drop, and it recovered rather quickly. So that's one reason why we did finish either even or just a little bit above, because it was the interest and the capital gains that we have encountered.
Thank you.
Community development.
Thank you, Your Honor. I have a couple things this evening. First, some good news. We received notice on Friday that we've been awarded $37,000 from the state as part of Abandoned Properties Program Round 4. The purpose of those funds is to acquire and demolish properties. In fact, this money specifically will go towards some of our first acquisitions and demolitions as part of the Northern Illinois Land Bank. And secondly, we had a new intern start last week. Her name's Abigail Monroy. She's working to attain her master's degree in public administration, or MPA, from Northern Illinois University. One of the projects we're having her working on first is, as the city joins the Northern Illinois Land Bank, we need to make sure we're now keeping up to date property tax payment and water bill payment information on all of our condemned properties. The reason that's now especially is especially important because after properties remain tax delinquent for 2 or more years, or has an unpaid water bill for 2 or more years, the land bank can seek an abandonment order from the court and can be awarded a clean title to the property. She'll be working with myself as well as the building inspector to develop a system to track this information for all of our 70-plus current and future condemnations as we move forward, in order to make land bank property acquisition as easy as possible.
Thank you. Good news. Public Works.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. We also had a summer intern start. His name's Brandon Schroeder. He's out of Platteville. He's going to be monitoring a few of our construction projects, mainly the Woodside Drive, and then he's also going to assist on Float Street. On top of that, me and Kurt are going to have him pretty busy out collecting some of the GIS data that we've been missing around the city, especially downtown. IDOT's archaeological group is on site out at Crate Park. They're doing their investigation for the Demeter Bridge project. We've got a guy out there with their backhoe assisting where needed. And then our street crews have been busy paving on Shawnee. They put down an inch today as kind of a binder course. They're going to be putting down another inch come Wednesday or Thursday, or it might even be an inch and a half. That'll button up everything that's milled over there. Our mill right now is currently broke down. Our mechanic's working on it. We've got a bunch of parts ordered. So Shawnee will kind of be put on hold until we can get that fixed up.
Thank you. Fire.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just real quick, I'd like to recognize 4 of our new hire firefighters. They've been around for just a little bit over a year, but they're finishing up their advanced technician firefighter training this week in the Illinois Fire Service Institute Regional Training Facility held over in Cherry Valley. Amos Langlos, Zachary Burr, Nate Stepp, and Ryan Thomas are all over there this week. And this is kind of a big step for them because this is the final stage in order for them to be a fully certified firefighter. So, job well done to them.
Thank you.
Madam Mayor?
Police. I'm
Thank
sorry.
you, Madam Mayor.
Sure. Alderman Brashaw.
Could I ask Fire Chief a question? Sure. Thank you, Chief. I understand there's at least one fire this past week. Can you give us any synopsis of what happened with the fires?
It's kind of under investigation right now. Is at 47 South Hancock. Came in Saturday evening around 11 o'clock. It was an abandoned building. No insurance on the building. The homeowner has really no desire for anything with that. City Manager Crowe, you have anything you want to add to that, or?
This was one of our properties we had identified to be demoed as part of the, that we've submitted for the IDNR project for demoing and purchasing and demoing.
Okay, thank you.
Mayor,
Alderman Ross.
either city manager or fire chief, was there power going to that house or anything like that?
No, there was not. There was no gas, no power, no water, no nothing. The fire was pretty spectacular. We
Yeah.
suspect arson. But again, you know, that's kind of where we'll let it go.
Yeah, it was a good one.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Anything else? And thank you.
Okay, police.
Okay, thank you. Friday, we had our 3rd annual Cop on a Rooftop at Dunkin' Donuts to raise money for Special Olympics of Illinois. Our goal was $2,000. We had never reached $2,000 before, so our goal was to get as close to that or eclipse that. And our total for Friday was $2,730. Yeah, it was really spectacular, particularly on a day that all my guys and gals were out there. It was cold and rainy and windy, but they did a great job. And so $2,730 I'm going to go to Special Olympics of Illinois and to help with that organization. So I was really proud of that. Thank you.
Well done. Water and Sewer.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. Just want to go and give an update on Float Street. The work is getting done in between the rain events. It's not moving as at a pace we thought it would, but the contractor is plugging away at it. So it's a work in progress.
Thank you. IT. And Library.
Good evening. So now that Game of Thrones is officially over, we can now say that summer is coming. So summer is the busiest time of year every year for the library. So you'll see a large uptick in programming and just circulation and people coming into the library. And I want to invite you to June 8th if you have any children or if yourself you would like to enjoy summer reading. Come on in. It's a Saturday from 10 to 12, and we'll be having crafts, balloon animals, some other things going on, special fun things for you to enjoy while you sign up for summer reading. And part of the reason why we do this is that we really want to make sure that kids continue to read throughout the summer. So something new that I don't think has been done here in the past is that they're not required to have a library card. They can participate the entire community. They don't have to live in Freeport to enjoy the benefits of this program. So that's what I have to report tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. That's a nice added little touch for that. So thank you for doing that. Manager Crowe.
Thank you, Mayor. Just add some more good news to it. Well, start with the bad news. Everybody's tax bill went out, and so we received our updated EAV, official EAV. We saw a little over a $3 million, just under $3 million increase, and we actually saw an increase in almost $2 million in residential EAV. We saw a little over $1 million in industrial commercial EAV increase. The one area we did see a drop was in farmland EAV. It dropped 35,000. So, but overall the city went up just under $3 million. Now because of that, because we set our based upon what our requirements for the pension funds, your taxing rate from the city dropped from last year to this year.
Well, all right. Are you done?
I'm done.
Okay.
That would be a mic drop.
Okay. Well, once again, I'd just like to welcome Alderman Mysick and Borneman to the team. You'll be a great addition. We thank you for your service. Wednesday, the 22nd, Classic Cinemas and the Stevenson County Historical Society are dedicating an auditorium at the Lindo Theater in honor of Spencer Tracy. So if you would like to come, the plaque unveiling will be approximately 6:30 on Wednesday night. And then also to remind you that Monday, the 27th, the City Hall will be closed, and we are having the Memorial Day Parade at 10 o'clock in the downtown. So lineup is at 9 o'clock. So if you can please come for that, that would be great. And then also just to say to have a safe and happy Memorial Day weekend as you remember and honor those that have died while serving in our armed forces. So I think, let's see, that would be Alderman Mysick, if you would have something you'd like to say this evening.
Certainly. So it's certainly an honor. It's been a dream to serve in this city. This is a city that I love, and truly this opportunity is not something I take lightly. Very much have enjoyed seeing this council to serve well in the city, making very difficult decisions. Excited to go through training with Eric and Jim just a couple weeks ago, and really has been a great process to come on board. It seems to be rather seamless, learning the ropes. I know I have a lot to learn. Definitely excited about the possibilities of what we can do, really setting policies that make a positive impact. Even some of the items tonight, really to look at how we are making strides in a positive direction. These are difficult decisions, no doubt. Really, it's truly an honor. So I thank you for that, and appreciate the efforts for the reception. I know having Alderperson Keister and Clem moving along, as well as welcoming Eric and I. It was nicely attended, and appreciated the warm welcome. And looking forward to serving the citizens well. So thank you very much. It's an honor.
Thank you. Alderman Burberry.
Thank you, Your Honor. Last Saturday, one of the finest wine pourers in the community, Art Ross, and myself helped at Pretzel Wine Festival. Great time at Sports Recreation Authority. Was very proud, I'm sure Art was too, is how many people walked in that store right across from Licky's and said, "This is a great downtown. We come from here, we come from there. It's one street long, it's two streets that intersect. You have a great downtown, it's vibrant," and today was a good example of it. And it wasn't that good weather all day long either. It was off and on all day long. So people love to come to downtown Freeport. Not the other parts of town are excluded, but it is a draw. It is a magnet, and that's what Greater Freeport Partnership is out trying to do, and I think it's working. So I enjoyed it. Art, maybe we'll go have a beer someplace on our own next time, okay? That's it, Your Honor.
All right, Alderman Borneman.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to first thank everyone here, and then also all the people who helped me during my campaign, who allowed me to put signs in their yards, went door to door for me, people who liked things on Facebook, posted, most importantly, the people who voted for me. So I share Dan's excitement about this opportunity to serve the city that I'm born and raised in and proud to call home. And again, thank you, and I'm excited about the opportunity.
Thank you. Alderman McClanathan.
Thank you. Well, as we said goodbye to Mike and Tom with their service, we're saying hello to Eric and Dan, and then to the other 4 who were sworn in for your new terms. You know, Don and Jim, we can't call you rookies anymore. You got newer terms. But in all seriousness, I do look forward to working and continuing to, and then working with each and every one of you. You each bring something unique to the table here that adds to it, and your various wards as well, and your experiences both professionally and personally. So as we move forward and look at what do these next 2 and 4 years respectively look like, I appreciate hearing from you and seeing how we can work together to continue to move some things forward.
Alderman Ross.
Yes, I just want to say thank you to everybody. I mean, we lost 2 great guys, but we gained 2 great guys. And we also gained 4 great guys. So I just want to say thank you. I'm glad to be part of the team. You know, it's, I always said it's not an easy job, but we going to continue moving Freeport forward, and that's the main thing. Now, as Alderman Burberry was stating earlier, yes, we had an assortment of people from all over come in. But the one thing they did always comment on, how clean it was downtown. You know, they says, hey, well, they say we came from a different, I won't mention the city, but they said, you know, this little 2-street city, and they says, man, I said, I can't believe how clean it is down here. And I said, well, we try. So that was, you know, that was the main thing. But Mayor Miller, where's the lineup for the parade?
Walnut and Maine.
Yes, Walnut, Maine. Okay, thank you. That's all I have.
Alderman Parker.
Just one thing is kind of minor, but this weekend I spent 3 days up in Whitewater, going back to watching baseball. And I did notice that, you know, GPS, I had to use that because it was about 14 turns to get to the ballpark. And there was not a handful, there was 2 or 3 intersections that didn't have street signs, but GPS says turn on this street, turn on that street. So I would encourage all of us when we're out and about, just if you find a road, there's no street sign, get a hold of Lowell, and he can get it taken care of, because there's nothing more frustrating than to be in a strange town and make a turn and then not know where the heck you're at. So it's petty, but it's certainly not frustrating if we could take care of it in Freeport. Thank you.
Alderman Busker.
Yes, I want to welcome the new members to the council here, and I want to thank the constituents that voted us all in, that you're trusting us with the decisions for your livelihoods. With that, we have the neighborhood watch for the 5th Ward tomorrow evening at 6 o'clock at the First Church of the Nazarene at Empire and Carroll. Thank you.
Alderman Brashaw.
Thank you, Mayor. I again want to welcome Alderman Misick and Alderman Borneman, and we look forward to working with you and arguing with you on certain instances, and try to all do better for Freeport. I want to apologize for being late to your reception. I was one of them that attended the superintendent candidate reception. We have a very important decision in Freeport. The school board is looking to select a new superintendent. They were given multiple names. Well, actually, it was narrowed down to 5 for the school board to narrow down to 3. And the first candidate tonight was an Anthony Bonds, a very remarkable gentleman. And I'm sure the other 2 will be qualified as well, too. They only release 1 name per day, so I haven't been able to get into my email to find the second name for tomorrow. If you're interested in attending, the candidate receptions are at 4:30 in the meeting room at 701 West Empire Street. That's the middle school. And they're going to have the second candidate speak tomorrow at 4:30 and the third candidate on Wednesday at 4:30. There again, I'm not rooting for any one person. I just want you to be aware of the name of the person today before it's released to media. Thank you.
So tomorrow's candidate that'll be just released, it was Carolyn Pate Hefty.
One more time.
Dr. Carolyn Pate Hefty. That's hyphenated. And she is currently the Executive Director of Student Services at Maywood Melrose Park, Broadview School District 89.
Thank you.
Okay, then that concludes new council. So item number 20 is public comment.
City Manager Crow, Mayor Miller, all the council members, everyone here. My name is Brian Heiler. I've been here, I've spoke for 2 meetings, and both of those meetings, you probably know, I've come in here, probably steam coming out of my ears, fire in my eyes, and as a concerned citizen and a business owner. And I would expect, I know Art's got his business, Jody, anybody that's got a business. I think if they had a passion for their business, I would expect them to do the same thing. Tonight, I come here a little different. I hope to have wanted to speak at the beginning, just to say that when we bought our building, being in the county, one of the things, and I know my wife told me then, that she said, you've got to remember, you're in a main corridor of Freeport. Whatever you do, you got to make it look good. And it was meant, we had to make it look good. We were trying to do it for Freeport. I was hoping maybe Tom would be here, because this is what our building used to look like, and it's probably the paint job that he put on it. I know back then when he spoke about that, I don't know what the event was, whether it was some big event for Freeport, and I know at that time you guys were concerned about how it looked. And I just want to say, we did this to try and help Freeport, and I'm hoping with our businesses that we have in the building, that our revenue, we can help support Freeport. We want to continue to help. This is kind of just a little bit, shows the history of where we started probably 3.5 years ago to where we ended up. If anybody wants to look at it afterwards, they're more than welcome to. I just want to say that we hope to continue on, and we're passionate about what we're doing, and we hope to work with you.
Thank you, Brian.
Ben Heiler. Just wanted to say, again, we're business owners. My dad, he owns multiple buildings in Freeport here. If you ever went on, was it Prairie Street over there? Very nice building, not a slumlord. He's a landlord, 2 business owners. We just want to operate a business in Freeport. I want you guys to think, if you guys followed the rules, again, opening a business and now being annexed into the city, would you want the city to accommodate and also provide that revenue to the city? I mean, that's a lot of revenue coming into the city. I'm hearing today a lot, hey, there's some things that need to be fixed, downtown revitalization, sewer installation. I think it's a good consideration. And again, I mean, that building on South Street did not look good. It looks really nice now. Nice blacktop. Helped install the bricks over there as well. Did a lot of work over there for Dad. So again, just want you guys to think about the business owners coming to Freeport. Will this be the only business that I open? My dad owns multiple businesses here. I would hope that you guys accommodate. Thank you.
Thank you, Ben. Tommy?
Wanted to tell you, Joey Miller, don't forget June 2nd is my birthday, gonna be 56.
56?
Yeah.
All right. Well, congratulations, Tommy.
And you're gonna talk to somebody about we're gonna have cupcakes some
Well, we'll have to discuss that.
when you and
We'll discuss it, Tommy.
and want to tell you you did a good job, the mayor.
Thank you, Tommy.
And Todd Boggle, we don't care what they say to you, but you're the best.
Any other public comments? Seeing none, is there a motion for adjournment?
So moved.
Second.
Motion made by Alderman Busker, seconded by Alderman Ross. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Have a good evening.